You are more likely to be killed by your own furniture than by a shark. But your brain doesn't feel that way, and that mismatch is quietly distorting every risk decision you make. Quick question: what kills more people every year in the United States, shark attacks or falling vending machines? The answer is vending machines. Not even close. But if I ask you which one you're more afraid of, the answer is obvious. Sharks are vivid. They're dramatic. They show up in movies and news headlines and your imagination in a way that vending machines never will. Your brain uses that vividness as a proxy for probability. The easier it is to picture something happening, the more likely your brain estimates it is. And that shortcut, useful in some contexts, is systematically distorting your perception of what's actually dangerous in your life. The availability heuristic is a mental shortcut by which people judge the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. If you can picture it easily, your brain assumes it must be common. If you struggle to imagine it, your brain assumes it's rare. It was identified by Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in their 1973 paper on heuristics and biases. Kahneman later described it in his book Thinking, Fast and Slow, as one of the core operations of System 1. The fast, automatic, associative thinking your brain does before the slower, rational System 2 gets a chance to weigh in. The heuristic exists because, in an evolutionary environment, what came to mind easily usually was common. If you could easily recall seeing a predator in a certain area, that predator probably was common there. The problem is that what comes to mind easily in the modern world is determined not by actual frequency, but by media exposure, emotional salience, and narrative vividness. Tversky and Kahneman ran experiments asking people questions like, are there more words in English that start with the letter K, or words that have K as the third letter? Most people said K at the start. In reality, words with K as the third letter are far more common: acknowledge, bike, a lake, bake, alike. But words starting with K are easier to retrieve, so people assumed there were more of them. In a more consequential study, researchers found that people dramatically overestimated the frequency of deaths from dramatic causes, plane crashes, tornadoes, shark attacks, and underestimated mundane but statistically larger killers: heart disease, diabetes, falls. The more coverage an event got, the more likely it felt. Media frequency became mental frequency, with no adjustment for actual base rates. After 9/11, Americans drove significantly more and flew significantly less, even though, statistically, driving the same distances was far more dangerous. The vividness and emotional magnitude of the attack made plane travel feel catastrophically risky. Thousands of additional road deaths resulted from that perceptual shift. The availability heuristic existed before social media, but social media has weaponized it at scale. Social media platforms algorithmically amplify the most emotionally engaging content, which almost always means the most dramatic, threatening, and novel. Plane crashes, violent crime, rare diseases, political extremism, content that would have reached a small number of people in 1985 now reaches millions. And each exposure trains the brain to retrieve it more easily the next time. The result is a population whose subjective perception of risk is increasingly disconnected from statistical reality. People in the safest era of human history feel like the world is more dangerous than it's ever been, because the content they consume is systematically selected for threat salience. This also explains why local crime feels like it's getting worse in areas where statistical crime rates are declining. If more stories about local incidents go viral and appear in your feed, the availability of those memories goes up. And with it, your estimate of how common they are. The most effective counterweight to the availability heuristic is base rate thinking, looking for the actual statistical frequency of an event rather than relying on how easily you can picture it. Before making a risk-based decision, ask two questions. First, how often does this actually happen? Not how often you've heard about it. Not how dramatic the cases you can recall are. the actual frequency? Second, am I more afraid of this because it's genuinely dangerous or because it's been depicted in media I've consumed? A useful daily habit. When you feel fear or anxiety about something, trace the source of the imagery. Where did this mental picture come from? A news story, a film, a conversation? If the answer is vivid representation in media rather than direct experience of genuine frequency, you're probably feeling the heuristic rather than actual risk. Your fear and your reality are not the same thing. Your brain was never designed to assess risk in a world saturated with curated, algorithmically amplified threats. What you find easy to imagine is not a reliable guide to what's actually likely to happen. The most useful thing you can do is develop the habit of asking, how often does this actually happen? Before letting the vividness of the image determine how much mental space it gets. Drop a comment, what's something you were disproportionately afraid of, until you actually looked up the statistics. I want to know. Subscribe for more psychology that maps to real life.